I think perhaps the main reason was I can relate to him. Because he was shy, he wasn't that successful with girls, he had to worry about his family. I think most teenagers reading it thought to themselves, hey, that could be me.
It's 1962. Fueled by the success of the Fantastic Four, Marvel's head writer, Stan Lee, is pondering a new superhero concept. He wants something radically different, something unprecedented. Inspired by the rise in popularity of comics among teenagers, a brilliant idea strikes him: create a character who is a teenager. Until then, children in comics were merely sidekicks without much significance. But now, teenagers could relate to the hero, connect with them on a deeper level, something unheard of before. Previously, costumed characters were not burdened with the human problems typical of ordinary people. However, Spider-Man was different. He was a regular guy with ordinary problems. In short, he is one of us. The point is that anyone could be Spider-Man because everyone can be the hero.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
To bring all his ideas to life, Stan Lee only needed the approval of publisher Martin Goodman. However, Goodman presented hundreds of reasons why Spider-Man was a terrible idea, predicting it would be a failure. He argued that a teenager couldn't be a superhero, and a hero couldn't be an ordinary person. Nevertheless, Stan Lee stood his ground, and eventually Goodman gave in.
If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it.
The first appearance of Spider-Man on screen happened in 1967. The animated series with the straightforward title Spider-Man aired on ABC channel. The show lasted for 3 seasons, underwent changes in producers and authors, and concluded looking entirely different from its original form. One standout feature of the series is of course its iconic intro, heard at the beginning of each episode.
A Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
The melody and rhyme became incredibly memorable, and the song quickly became a hit. Understandable given that the lyrics were written by Paul Francis Webster, a 3-time Oscar winner for Best Original Song with an additional 13 nominations. It's quite intriguing how such a renowned figure in the industry came up with such a catchy rhyme. However, the 1967 Spider-Man is not just known for its song. Memes originating from the series have become legendary and continue to circulate online. Interestingly, in the episode featuring this scene, Peter Parker spent the entire time chasing a brilliant actor and con artist named Charles Cameo, who pretends to be various characters for criminal purposes. In this instance, we witness Spider-Man taking the spotlight. The entire first season of the animated series consists of brief encounters between Peter Parker and iconic villains such as Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Rhino, and others. Interestingly, Spider-Man's life outside his job as a photographer for the Daily Bugle is not explored much. Aunt May makes only a single appearance. Besides Parker, the main characters are his colleague and at the same time love interest Betty Brant, and of course, the head of the Daily Bugle J. Jonah Jameson in his iconic portrayal. It is from this animated series that J. Jonah Jameson's behavior was copied for Sam Raimi's trilogy. Jameson essentially is the main antagonist for the first season. He constantly throws obstacles in Spider-Man's way, becomes the cause of several supervillains appearing, and even once tries on the Spider-Man Slayer suit himself. Interestingly, this plot is almost the only one taken directly from the comics. For some reason, the animated series ignores many events from the source material. By the second season, the project undergoes a change in the main director and writer. With his creative vision, the series undergoes significant changes, and now episodes are not divided into 2 10-minute parts, but tell a unified 20-minute story. In the very first episode of the second season, the story of Spider-Man's formation becomes clear. After that, he starts battling aliens, magical forces, and denizens of the underworld. Villains from the comics take a back seat, only Kingpin occasionally makes an appearance. By the third season, the budget is significantly reduced, and the creators start reusing animations from previous episodes, and later even borrow entire episodes, moreover, not only from previous seasons. One of the episodes of the third season uses all animation from another series. Mary Jane appears in a small role, who is a niece of Captain Stacy. As you can understand, what happens in the comics didn't particularly interest the creators. The series concludes with reminiscence of past adventures. Naturally, there is no specific plot point here. Spidey Super Stories. In the 70s, there was a TV show for preschoolers called Electric Company. It was here that Peter Parker made his non-animated debut. In one of the seasons, a new segment called Spidey Super Stories was introduced. These brief 3-minute episodes depicted Spider-Man's encounters with various villains. Notably, Spidey never takes off his mask. Among the foes, there is a teenage version of Napoleon, Wallman, and even Count Dracula. Interestingly, this series inspired a comic book series with an official Marvel numbering. The most intriguing detail is that a young Morgan Freeman played the role of the narrator and some characters. In today's context, this series provides a wonderful opportunity to not only revisit Spider-Man's past, but also witness the early career of the iconic actor. The Amazing Spider-Man. Let's jump ahead to 1977. In the late 70s, bringing well-known superhero tales to the small screen became a cherished tradition. The Incredible Hulk with Lou Ferrigno, Wonder Woman with Linda Carter, and The Amazing Spider-Man with Nicholas Hammond hit the screens. The series kicked off with a feature-length pilot episode, released as a standalone TV movie simply titled Spider-Man. The following 2 episodes, Deadly Dust, were also released separately under the title Spider-Man Strikes Back. Let's delve into the specifics of the series. It begins with the classic scene of Peter being beaten by a radioactive spider, gaining powers and adopting the Spider-Man persona. However, the narrative moves swiftly. There is no Uncle Ben's death, or rather it's there, but unrelated to Peter's transformation. Moreover, it's not Ben, it's Max. Peter still works at the Daily Bugle and is a college student. He works for the same J. Jonah Jameson, initially portrayed by David White and later replaced by Robert Simon. The series continues to surprise with its departure from the comic book plots. Spider-Man battles hypnotizing extortionists, hypnotizer robbers, and the creators of hypnotic gas. The hero prevents political associations and much more. In one episode of the second season, the events bear a resemblance of the movie Die Hard. A skyscraper is seized by terrorists. The roof is rigged with the explosives, and the invaders have selfish motives, and so forth. But I want to highlight a particular episode from the first season called Night of the Clones. In Spider-Man comics, they love stories about cloning. There is a character named Miles Warren, nicknamed by Jackal, a specialist in cloning living beings. He managed to create several Peter Parkers, Gwen Stacy's, and other characters. In the mid-90s, the Spider-Man clone, taking the name Ben Reilly and the nickname Scarlet Spider, becomes the main character in the series. A lot is connected with this them, but it hasn't made it into the big screen yet. More precisely, it was realized only once in the animated series The Amazing Spider-Man, not counting the comics. The Clone Saga is far from the strongest among Spider-Man stories. While it holds a significant place in comics, it would look odd on the big screen. As I mentioned earlier, the series has few points of contact with the comic. Robbie Robertson is worth mentioning, but here he plays a rather insignificant role in the plot. The series concluded with the 2-part adventure titled Chinese Web, from which the third full-length TV movie The Dragon's Challenge emerged. Spider-Man travels to China to protect J. Jonah Jameson from the evil plot of unscrupulous businessmen. The series was cancelled by CBS in 1979 due to concerns that it was becoming too closely associated with comic books. The same unfortunate fate befell the Wonder Woman series. In the 80s, there were rumors of reviving this Spider-Man version in a crossover with the television Hulk. However, the project never went beyond discussions. They favored the more popular Hulk on screen, giving him several solo films. If you thought the late 70s series had little in common with the original comics, the next project will surprise you. Japanese Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Marvel Comics in general gained popularity worldwide, except in Japan, where manga dominated. American comics had too much text. To navigate through one page, you had to read tons of reflections from different characters. In manga, on the contrary, there was a minimum of text and a maximum of action. This peculiarity caught the attention of an American living in Japan named Jim Polk. He contacted Marvel and received permission to promote the brands to the masses. They decided to enter through television screens. The series was very popular, and a new product emerged that was unlike anything else. As we can see, the intro here is good. Catchy music, a Spider-Man costume close to the original, and even wall crawling portrayed realistically. But Japan is Japan, it's impossible to do without giant robots here. So what's the plot? A young motorcyclist, Takuya Yamashiro, witnesses the fall of a spaceship from the planet called Spider. The protagonist infiltrates the aircraft, called the Marveler, and acquires a spider bracelet, transforming the wearer into Spider-Man. Now he has to confront the evil Iron Cross army that has taken over the Spider planet. Their next target, swept the entire universe. Leading the villains are Professor Monster and Amazoness. By the way, the first guy outwardly somewhat resembles Doctor Doom, but the similarities are only superficial. Takuya's father, a cosmic archaeologist, meets his demise. Actually, if you have ever seen any episode of Power Rangers, you roughly understand the concept of each episode of the Japanese Spider-Man. In each episode, the main character faces the schemes of the Iron Cross Army. They unleash a monster on him, defeated by the superhero, but it grows in size. Then Spider-Man summons the Marveler, which transforms into the robot Leopardon. Takuya also has the Spider-Mobile GP7. Attributes like robots and other means of transportation are essential for the main goal of the series on Japanese television, toy sales. Therefore, memorable items are inserted everywhere, with or without context. The series lasted 41 episodes and one short film, which was shown in theaters. It's unique in that it continues a complete story. In the end, Spider-Man prevails and enjoys the sunset. Actually, we could talk about the funniest moments of the series. However, this applies to all moments. If you randomly pick any few episodes, you will find a ton of signature madness. Without taking anything from Marvel Comics, the Japanese created a distinctive product in their own ethnic tones. But it only reached the American audience in the mid-2000s. Before that, hardly anyone had heard of it. But in Japan, it was a hit. In fact, there was even a manga about Spider-Man's adventures, but it's not connected to the series because the manga was released at a different time, and the characters were entirely different. So, let's move on. Spider-Woman. In 1979, a 16-episode animated series called Spider-Woman was released, focusing on the adventures of Jessica Drew, who, like Peter, was bitten by a spider. However, she didn't undergo any magical transformations, so her scientist father had to use a healing spider extract, giving her superpowers. The character's origin deviated significantly from the comics, but that's not important. The more interesting aspect is the character's creation process. Marvel's competitors wanted to introduce a character named Spider-Woman in the Tarzan and the Super 7 animated series. The studio couldn't allow that, so a decision was made to launch a character with the same name to protect the copyrights. They quickly repurposed elements from Wolverine, which hadn't been released yet, for the origin story, and Spider-Woman became Marvel's new hero. So Tarzan had to rename the character to Web-Woman. Now let's briefly discuss the animated series. Jessica Drew works for Justice magazine and along with her nephew Billy and colleague Jeff, travels worldwide, battling villains. Their adventures take them to Norway, Africa, Moscow for the Olympics, and even the Amazon, home to Amazons, which oddly enough makes sense. There are almost no connection to the comics once again. The creators have their own ideas about what the audience wants. However, Spider-Man makes 2 appearances here. The first time is to assist in the battle against an alien mummy, and the second time is against a giant spider robot. Among the notable villains, Kingpin appears, attempting to expose Jessica's identity to the world, but Spider-Woman manages to thwart his plans. In one episode, Dormammu even makes an appearance. Nevertheless, all the mentioned animated series are quite distant from the original and for some reason don't even attempt to utilize it, but things will change in the upcoming projects. Spider-Man. In 1982, Marvel Productions gave birth to not one, but 2 animated series that were released simultaneously. The first one simply titled Spider-Man. Sometimes there is no need for unnecessary subtitles. It's dedicated to the adventures of Peter Parker, which makes sense given the straightforward title. The producers finally deviate from the trends of the previous works and delve deeper into the source material. The 1982 series is unique in frequently bringing to the screen a vast array of Marvel characters, so to speak, not from the A-list. Here comes Khazar from the Savage Land, a kind of local Tarzan. For the first time on screen we see Felicia Hardy, also known as Black Cat, whose relationship with Spidey closely mirrors the chemistry between Batman and Catwoman. Prince Namor, with his cousin Namorita, also makes an appearance in one of the episodes. Betty Brant serves as the romantic interest, continuing the spirit of the original 1967 series. However, this doesn't stop Peter from having a romantic entanglement with Medusa from the Inhumans team. The main concept of the episodes continues the line set by the very first series. A villain appears, encounters Spidey and loses. Among the villains are familiar foes of Parker, such as Dr. Octopus, the Lizard and others, as well as antagonists from other major comic series. Thus, the main hero faces off against Magneto, then Red Skull, saving Captain America. The confrontation with the Latvian dictator Dr. Doom spans a whopping 6 episodes scattered throughout the season. The animated series gives us a crucial sense of being part of vast universe, rich with its own internal rules and grand events. However, it doesn't do it as effectively as the second animated series of the same same time, which gained more popularity among viewers. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Unlike the first one, this series managed to stick around for a whopping 3 seasons, even though it has fewer episodes in total. Here's the setup. Peter Parker shares a place with Bobby Drake, also known as Iceman from the X-Men, a mutant with the ability to freeze things, and a certain Firestar, aka Angelica Jones, an entirely new Marvel character. Originally, the plan was to feature Johnny Storm, a Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, instead of her, but there were complications with licensing. In general, the sale of rights to their characters would become one of the main challenges creating a shared cinematic universe, but that's not the focus now. The trio of superheroes lives with Aunt May and battles evil from various comic storylines, constantly interacting with other characters. In the 70s, a highly popular series called Marvel Team Up began, where Spider-Man teamed up with various well-known superheroes in each issue, from Iron Man to Ghost Rider. Crossovers proved effective in grabbing audience attention and made their way to screen. The first episode of the animated series kicks off with a costume party, brimming with notes to the Marvel Universe. In the 6th episode of the debut season, the superhero trio teams up with Captain America, Doctor Strange, Namor, and Shanna, who happens to be Khazar's love interest. Entire episodes delve into relationships with the X-Men, Thor, or the Hulk. Interestingly, the episode Spidey Goes Hollywood, featuring the debut of the Hulk, served as a kind of pilot for a solo series about Bruce Banner. What's most intriguing is that both series from 1981 share the same universe. Scenes from the first project occasionally appear as flashbacks in the second, and of course, let's not forget about Lime, the little dog. She takes part in many superhero adventures here. Naturally, the series found a certain level of success, but it can't quite measure up to the next masterpiece. Spider-Man the Animated Series. In fact, many people's love for the character started with this animated series. It's often placed alongside other outstanding projects from the 90s, like Batman and the X-Men. But what makes them so special? All this animated series treat the source material with great respect, bringing the events of beloved comics to the screen in a slightly reworked form. To be in tune with the main story arcs of Peter Parker's adventure at that time, watching only this animated series is of course sufficient. The project stayed on screens for a whopping 5 seasons, setting an absolute record for Spider adaptations. Let's delve a bit more into its content. The Spider-Man of the 90s bursts onto screens with its intro, giving us a taste of what to expect. A bit of computer graphics and guitar riffs in the opening create a sense of transition to something new. By the way, Joe Perry from the Aerosmith composed the music for the opening, earning a mention in one of the episodes.
No, wait. How about that guy from Aerosmith?
Initially, the animated series followed the classic superhero formula: encounter the villain, fight, and emerge victorious. However, the narrative then shifts horizontally. By horizontal storytelling, I mean not the one episode one plot scheme, but story arcs spanning several episodes with ongoing developments. In the first 7 episodes, we witness confrontations with the Lizard, Dr. Octopus, and Mysterio. Despite the somewhat procedural nature of the animated series, the characters undergo development from one plot to the next. In the very first storyline, Eddie Brock is humiliated by Peter, and this sets the stage for what unfolds very soon. This animated series doesn't give you the feeling that you are watching just another superhero flick. It genuinely strives for drama and character development, and it succeeds quite well.
It's always the same. I can save the world 10 times over, but when I need help, I'm on my own.
Venom is introduced as early as the 8th episode. In this animated series, they tweaked his backstory a bit compared to the comics. Here, astronauts, including Jameson's son John, brought the symbiote from the moon. After the initially somewhat classic season, which focuses on introducing villains and battling them, the series takes things to a new level. Now, each season will be an extensive narrative with an overarching plot. In the second season, featuring the storyline titled Neogenic Nightmare, Parker will undergo a mutation, transforming into a multi-armed monster. Many well-known characters from Kraven to Punisher will hunt him down. The vampire Michael Morbius and the vampire Hunter Blade also play significant roles. The third season, under the collective title Sins of the Fathers, takes the overall connection to a notable level. Despite initially appearing as separate stories, there is a common theme of parent-child relationships. Children taking responsibility for their parents' sins, Mary Jane's relationship with her father, and Robbie Robertson jeopardizing his own child's life due to involvement with the birth of Tombstone. Most importantly, it delves into the relationship between Norman and Harry Osborn, the Green Goblins. By the way, the storyline laid the foundation for the first part of the Raimi trilogy, drawing directly from the comics and remaining largely unchanged. Additionally, for the first time on the small screens, Madam Web makes an appearance. In the animated series, Madam Web is a cosmic entity sent by the Beyonder to prepare Spider-Man for the upcoming Secret Wars. The fourth season is collectively titled Partners in Danger, although in reality it continues the theme of previous seasons. For the most part, it delves into the relationship between Peter and Felicia Hardy, who becomes the Black Cat. The reason for this transformation is linked to her father, a criminal known as the Cat. Also, Harry Osborn becomes the next Green Goblin upon discovering his legacy. Peter reveals his identity to Mary Jane, whom he had long believed to be deceased. In the third season, she falls from a bridge, a scene that has been used multiple times in full-length movies. In the final fifth season, Peter finally marries Mary Jane, but she turns out to be a clone and soon disappears. Additionally, the storyline follows Peter's attempts to uncover the truth about his parents, who were likely Soviet spies. The grand-scale Secret Wars finally take place. The main highlight is the last two episodes, as the first Spiderverse unfolds. Alongside his alternative versions, Peter has to confront the symbiote Carnage, fused with one of the Spider-Men. Truly, the culminating conclusion of the series leads to Peter Parker swinging on a web with his creator Stan Lee. In this animated series, especially in the final seasons, there are numerous cameos from a multitude of characters. However, Spider-Man the Animated Series is not just shallow fan service, it's a personal and profound story of Peter Parker. Spider-Man Unlimited. In the late 90s, Saban Entertainment, best known for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, had plans to launch a 26-episode series called The Amazing Spider-Man. However, the rights to the familiar image of Spider-Man went to Sony Pictures, which was developing feature films starring Tobey Maguire, left only with the name and few details. Along with the strong desire to create something, Saban came up with the following solution: send Peter Parker into space. Here is the setup. A spaceship is being prepared for launch, with J. Jonah Jameson's son, John, on board. Venom and Carnage sneak on board, and Spider-Man tries to stop them. In the end, the whole company ends up separately on Counter-Earth, inhabited by humans and strange humanoid mutants. The main villain of the series is High Evolutionary, also known as Herbert Wyndham, who is trying to create a paradise on Counter-Earth, but promotes oppression and discrimination. The threat is what Peter will be fighting against, donning a nano-suit produced by Reed Richards, the leader of the Fantastic Four. He joins the Resistance, teams up with the parallel versions of villains like the Green Goblin and Vulture. Yeah, the well-known villains from our planet are the good guys here. In his spare time from heroics, Peter rents an apartment and works at the local newspaper with the local version of J. Jonah Jameson. Basically, it's all business as usual. That's the whole series. Peter Parker does his usual things, but on another Earth. Among the antagonists, you can encounter the Knights of Wundagore, an elite unit of the High Evolutionary consisting of the Lord Tiger, Sir Ram, and Lady Vermin. And of course, Venom and Carnage, who have their own plans beside the main problem. Noteworthy is the first appearance of John Jameson as Man-Wolf. The series lasted for 13 episodes, with a one-year hiatus between the third and fourth episodes. It was successfully concluded with an intriguing cliffhanger. Long story short, everybody just died. Despite the apparent disconnect from the canon, the project turned out to be quite interesting and dramatic. There are rumors circulating online about a script for the second season, but for now, let's not get into that. Spider-Man. Sam Raimi is truly a unique director. With his special directorial vision, he was the perfect candidate to helm a comic book movie. The journey to a full-length feature was a challenging and tumultuous one. Several attempts were made to start filming with different directors, ranging from Tobe Hooper to James Cameron. Additionally, the script itself underwent changes. In some versions, the story explores Parker turning into a spider monster and the subsequent hunt for him, somewhat similar to the Neogenic Nightmare. For instance, in the 90s, James Cameron was responsible for the script, envisioning Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role, and Electro and Sandman as the villains. The entire production process faced challenges with licensing. Rights shifted from one studio to another, ultimately landing in Sony's hands. Then 9/11 tragedy happened, leading to another delay in the film's release. Many scenes involving the Twin Towers had to be altered. Even in the first trailer, Spider-Man is seen catching criminals between the towers of the World Trade Center. Sam Raimi was chosen as the director director, and Tobey Maguire landed the titular role. In the initial script, alongside the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus was supposed to be featured. However, the director decided to forego the second antagonist, focusing on the theme of fathers and sons. Norman Osborn, brilliantly portrayed by Willem Dafoe, expresses sympathy for Peter, but his relationship with his son Harry, played by James Franco, is strained. It's a compelling conflict that works on both internal and external levels. Playing the role of the love interest is Mary Jane Watson, portrayed by Kirsten Dunst. Uncle Ben is portrayed by Oscar-winning actor Cliff Robertson, and Aunt May is placed by Rosemary Harris, also a recipient of many prestigious awards. The casting is excellent from every angle. The greatness of J.K. Simmons is unquestionable. Upon closer inspection, one notices the sort of talismans of Sam Raimi. Bruce Campbell makes his first appearance in this trilogy. The director's brother, Ted Raimi, also appears from film to film. And of course, Stan Lee makes an appearance, this time heroically saving a child from falling debris. Sam Raimi, in his own words, has been a big fan of Spider-Man comics since childhood, a passion evident in many details. The Daily Bugle edition mentions someone named Eddie, an obvious hint at the future Venom host.
Problem is, we don't have a decent picture. Eddie's been on it for weeks. We can barely get a glimpse of him.
Oh, what is he, shy?
Before becoming a photographer, Peter worked for Kurt Connors, who was supposed to become the Lizard in one of the upcoming films. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn collaborates with Dr. Mendel Stromm, who in the comics turns into a malicious robot, but here he simply dies. Raimi's entire trilogy is filled with references and mentions of various characters. In reality, the 2002 Spider-Man film has a magical sense of unreality, which is logical in a story about radioactive spiders and superpowers. One can criticize the not-so-perfect graphics, the debatable Green Goblin costume, plot holes, inconsistencies, and the rest. However, it's impossible to deny the sincerity of the film and the overall story. By the way, interestingly, Raimi rejected the canonical web shooters, believing a high school student couldn't invent them. Therefore, he replaced them with organic webbing that emerges directly from the wrists.
Up and away, Web!
Many people don't fully embrace Maguire's portrayal of Parker, claiming he's too tearful and emotional, not the Peters they expected. But all of this is part of the bigger picture that creates the feeling of a comic book on the screen. However, many elements of the external world are crafted for stylistic brilliance. For instance, Spider-Man's mirrored lenses serve the purpose of creating beautiful reflections. Maguire's acting is quite intriguing, but it's understandable why it might not appeal to everyone and in some cases even be annoying. And this doesn't apply solely to him. All characters react excessively to events. Peter's adoration upon seeing Mary Jane, Harry's disappointment when his father shows paternal sympathy to Parker, and Norman Osborn's overly emotional demeanor. But it is intentional. Viewers seem to be watching comic book panels and feeling emotions through facial expressions. You might not like Raimi's trilogy, but you can equally be enthralled by it for the same reasons. With the number of iconic scenes that have entered pop culture and become the subject of parodies, it's safe to say the film is unforgettable. The iconic words of Uncle Ben about great power that comes with great responsibility, Peter's first display of abilities, and the kiss between Spider-Man and Mary Jane in the rain, all of this resonated well with the audience. The box office numbers were excellent, and the sequel was eagerly anticipated, but that's a topic for discussion after the next adaptation. Spider-Man: The New Animated Series. Right after the release of Sam Raimi's first part of the trilogy, MTV launches a loose continuation of the film, in the form of an animated series. Initially, the plan was to adapt the growing lineup of Ultimate Comics, which represents a reboot of the beloved canonical stories, but from a different perspective. However, the popularity of Raimi's film played its part. The animated series aired in 2003. The first thing that catches your eye is the visual style. The series is entirely crafted using computer graphics, which, despite its imperfections, looks intriguing. This project is not considered part of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man adventures, as indicated by a different universe designation, but much has been borrowed from there. The storyline regularly recalls the killing of Norman Osborn by Spider-Man, Harry's torment with the thirst for revenge, and Mary Jane reminiscing about the kiss with Spider-Man. Speaking of Mary Jane, she has never shown such affection toward Peter before. The inconsistency in the romantic plotline raises some concerns. Mary Jane rushes into Peter's arm at every convenient opportunity. In the next episode, she starts a romance with some guy at the theater, only to turn back to Peter, simultaneously sharing a kiss with Spider-Man. Let's just say her animated version here is fickle. As for Aunt May, she is simply not in the series. The creators didn't want the moralizing of the elders to interfere with the youth's enjoyment. In each episode, and there are only 13 of them, Spider-Man classically confronts another villain. It's worth noting the high mortality rate of the local baddies, mostly unintentional but quite harsh. The voice acting deserves special attention. Neil Patrick Harris lent his voice to Peter Parker. Kingpin now looks like Michael Clark Duncan. By the way, he also voices him. Kurt Connors is voiced by Rob Zombie. Apparently, MTV didn't skimp on the cast. However, the ratings of the animated series didn't please the producers, and it was cancelled after the first season. In the best traditions of ambitious but prematurely cancelled shows, on a dramatic note, the telepathic twins Roxana and Roland cloud Spider-Man's mind and force him to throw his friend off a roof. After that, he tossed the suit into the bay. The Fast and Flashy series didn't win popular love, but remained the first and for a long time the only CG show on TV screens. Spider-Man 2, the sequel to Tobey Maguire's adventures, comes out 2 years later with an increased budget and higher box office ambitions. All the actors from the first part made it into the film, despite concerns that they might replace Tobey Maguire with another actor due to the health problems, specifically a back injury flare-up. Fortunately, the concern passed and even received a reference in the film itself.
My back! Oh, my back!
The main villain is Alfred Molina's Otto Octavius. The plot incorporates several storylines at once, the 4th episode of the first season of Spider-Man the Animated Series and several comic storylines. From the animated series, they took the entire setup with Dr. Octopus, and from the comics, Peter's attempts to break ties with his superhero alter ego. The scene where Parker throws his costume in the trash is taken directly from the source material. The main theme of the sequel revolves around the self-discovery struggles of the main trio of characters. What is more important to Peter, responsibility for his powers or his personal life? Can Doc Ock get himself together and stop his destructive plan? And finally, will Harry Osborn succumb to revenge? Can he overcome his anger towards the presumed killer of his father? A significant emphasis is placed on Peter's everyday life, aiming to show all the troubles that come with his double life. Among the major Marvel Universe references, there is a mention of Doctor Strange, indicating his presence in this universe.
What are we gonna call this guy?
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken.
Also, the appearance of J. Jonah Jameson's son is noteworthy, although his role is reduced to another love interest for Mary Jane. Bruce Campbell makes his second appearance, but in a different role this time. Interestingly, viewers saw him as the future Mysterio, and not in vain. In the cancelled 4th film, Bruce Campbell was supposed to appear as Mysterio. Stan Lee once again solidifies his Marvel presence in films, saving people during the villain's attack. Unlike the first part, Peter constantly reveals his face to others here, unveiling his identity to Mary Jane, Harry, the train passengers, and even Octavius. Sam Raimi accomplished a challenging task. According to many people, the second part surpassed the first in every aspect, from action to drama. Additionally, Spider-Man 2 remained for a long time the only Marvel Comics-based film to receive an Oscar, specifically for Best Visual Effects. Later, a director's cut titled Spider-Man 2.1 was released, featuring extended action scenes, new dialogues, and J. Jonah Jameson in a Spider-Man costume. The ending with Mary Jane running in a evading dress towards Peter magically captivates the audience and sparks imagination. How will their shared life be portrayed in the trilogy? We will find out soon. Spider-Man 3. The third movie received a truly colossal budget. Rumor has it that it reached 350 million, making Spider-Man 3 the most expensive film in history at that time. Initially, the director wanted to feature only 2 villains, Sandman, due to the visually intriguing embodiment of his abilities, and Harry Osborn. Closing his arc of transformation into the next Green Goblin was necessary. However, the producers insisted on implementing 2 more elements, the introduction of Venom and Gwen Stacy, which ultimately didn't play out well. The inclusion of the symbiote overwhelmed the plot. There was a need to delve into the backstory not only of Flint Marko, played by Thomas Hayden Church, who was additionally burdened with the guilt for Uncle Ben's death, but also Eddie Brock. The alien organism couldn't bond with Eddie immediately. According to the canon, it should attempt to corrupt Peter first, and then settle for Eddie, requiring additional time to explore Parker's dark side. But you know, there's not much to say about Bully Maguire. Gwen Stacy feels out of place here. Chronologically in the comics, she predates Mary Jane, and her death was a crucial plot point. In this film, Gwen seems unnecessary, especially since the romantic storyline with MJ has already been realized and explored. Replacing one girl with another feels somehow wrong. In Spider-Man 3, Gwen becomes a mere tool to showcase Peter's darker side rather than a fully developed character. The same goes for her father, Captain Stacy, portrayed by James Cromwell, who simply doesn't fit into the overloaded script. If in Spider-Man the Animated Series Gwen appeared just as a cameo, here, from a storytelling perspective, it turned into chaotic nonsense. Interestingly, the rest of the film isn't that bad. The spectacular action, particularly with Sandman, truly stands out as a visual spectacle. Certain scenes and storylines are excellent, especially those involving Harry Osborn's arc. As a cohesive picture, the third movie worked less effectively than its predecessors, even though its box office numbers were impressive. Before the release of Far From Home, it held the record as the highest grossing Spider-Man film. The decision was made to launch a fourth part, and development was in full swing. John Malkovich was considered for the role of the main villain, the Vulture, and based on the concept art, Mysterio was expected to make an appearance. Bruce Campbell, who had already played 3 roles in Raimi's films, seemed like a perfect fit. However, the plans went beyond just the fourth part. The director had numerous ideas, but creative disagreements between Sam Raimi and the producers led to his departure from the project. Following him, Tobey Maguire also exited the franchise. Sony decided to reboot Spider-Man. The Spectacular Spider-Man. In 2008, the CW channel launched a new show featuring Spider-Man. The Spectacular Spider-Man TV series is a true gem for Spider-Man fans and animation enthusiasts alike. It brilliantly captures the essence of the iconic superhero, offering a perfect blend of action, humor, and character development. The animation is top-notch, bringing the comic book world to life with vibrant colors and dynamic sequences. What sets it apart is the well-crafted storytelling, delving into Peter Parker's struggles with balancing his dual life as a high school student and a crime-fighting hero. The series not only pays homage to the classic Spider-Man comics, but also introduces fresh elements that keep it engaging for both new and seasoned Spidey fans. It's a spectacular ride from start to finish. The Spectacular Spider-Man stands out as a gem in the realm of the animated superhero series. What sets it apart is the meticulous attention to character development and the intricate storytelling that delves into Peter Parker's life, both in and out of the iconic red and blue suit. The series strikes a perfect balance between Peter's struggles as a high school student and his responsibilities as a superhero. One of the highlights is how it doesn't shy away from the complexities of teenage life, portraying Peter's relationships, academic challenges, and personal growth with authenticity. The animation style is dynamic, bringing the vibrant world of Marvel Comics to life in a visually appealing way. The villains are not just one-dimensional antagonists, they have depth in their own compelling storylines, making them more than just adversaries for Spider-Man. The intricate web of alliances and conflicts keeps the audience invested in every twist and turn. Moreover, the series pays homage to the source material while injecting its own creative flair. The witty dialogue and well-timed humor add layers to the narrative, making it enjoyable for both longtime fans and newcomers to the Spider-Man universe. In essence, The Spectacular Spider-Man is a well-crafted, character-driven animated series that succeeds in capturing the essence of Spider-Man's world, making it a must-watch for fans of the friendly neighborhood superhero. Ultimate Spider-Man. Several months before the release of The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, a new animated series titled Ultimate Spider-Man premiered on Disney XD. This series eventually expanded into a franchise, with spin-offs like The Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Hulk and the Agents of Smash, and The Guardians of the Galaxy joining the universe. Ultimate Spider-Man became the longest-running Spider-Man series, spanning 4 seasons, each with 26 episodes. In my opinion, this animated series is a pretty decent project, although many may disagree. Critics often label it as a mediocre. Let's explore why. The plot skips the origin story and jumps straight into Spider-Man's active crime-fighting phase. Nick Fury approaches him and proposes joining a young superhero team after some training. In the first season, Peter collaborates with Luke Cage, Nova, Iron Fist, and White Tiger. The main charm of this animated series lies in its richness. Stuffing numerous villains into a 2-hour feature film might be questionable, but doing so across more than 100 episodes is an entirely different matter. Spider-Man is almost never alone, as superhero colleagues and their villains frequently cross paths with him. Ultimate Spider-Man effortlessly captures the atmosphere of the Marvel Comics universe, featuring an abundance of characters and their constant interactions. Familiar stories take a slightly different spin, synthesizing the comic canons of the main Earth 616 and Ultimate universes. Many people criticize Spider-Man's excessive liveliness. Jokes pour out of him every second. Even when the Grandmaster is about to destroy the entire population population of Manhattan, including Aunt May, Peter doesn't lose his composure. The third season is subtitled Web Warriors. Here, Peter attempts to assemble another superhero team. Rare guests make appearances on the screens: Agent Venom, Cloak and Dagger, the Inhumans, Red Hulk, and others. Most importantly, Miles Morales makes his debut. Several episodes of the third and fourth seasons are dedicated to the multiverse. Noir Spider-Man, Miguel O'Hara from the 2099, Spider-Ham, Spider-Gwen, as well as Spider-Girl, Spider-Knights, and many others make appearances. The fourth season largely focuses on the confrontation with a new variation of the Sinister Six, Ultimate Spider-Man, serve as a boundless fan service, not dwelling too much on the drama unfolding on the screen. On one hand, it's undeniable downside, confirming the series' lack of depth. On the other hand, it's a fantastic treat for all Marvel enthusiasts. Okay, let's move on. The Amazing Spider-Man. Pragmatic producers, perhaps sensing that Sam Raimi's fourth film would never materialize, initiated the development of a potential reboot script concurrently with the pro-production of Tobey Maguire's New Adventures. In the end, that's exactly what happened. The Raimi franchise quietly faded away, and the reboot got the green light. They brought in experienced music video director Mark Webb to helm the project. Admittedly, he had only directed one feature film, the romantic tale 500 Days of Summer. The main reason for Webb's appointment can be summed up in his last name. Well, you get it. Andrew Garfield was chosen for the role of Peter Parker, bringing a completely new energy to the character. Maguire's Spider-Man was sensitive and indecisive. Garfield sharpens his wit and excels in conversing with girls. In the Spider-Man persona, he can be downright ruthless. The interrogation scene with the car thief was clearly intended to be amusing, but at times you just feel sorry for the guy. Such behavior is characteristic of Batman, not Spider-Man. By the way, there are indeed many parallels with Batman. Almost all the action takes place under the cover of night, and Spidey is quite ruthless, consumed by a thirst for vengeance. In homage to the original stories, the artificially crafted web shooters made a comeback. The organic webbing is the thing of the past. They wisely chose a director who can handle romance for this task. The film's standout feature is Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone, and her romance with Peter. The movie refuses to tread the familiar path of such storylines. Peter reveals his alter ego to his beloved without much hesitation. The ending with the funeral, reminiscent of the finale of Raimi's trilogy, takes a different turn here, as Peter doesn't let go of his love. The incredible chemistry between Garfield and Stone, who were in a relationship during filming, adds a genuine touch to the film. Gwen is not just a damsel in distress, she can stand up for herself and doesn't rely solely on pleas for help. The villain is portrayed by Rhys Ifans as Kurt Connors, who would later become the Lizard. Despite having seen this story on screens multiple times, it remains quite intriguing on the big screen. Once again, a significant amount of time is devoted to Peter's relationship with Uncle Ben, played by Martin Sheen. However, the film adds an investigation into Peter's parents' past, a topic untouched in Raimi's trilogy. Mark Webb mentioned that he wanted to capture Parker's story, not just Spider-Man's, and it began long before the spider bite. Since Raimi's time, computer graphics have made a leap, and the action looks more realistic. Peter's behavior during the battle with the Lizard at school, where he truly behaves like a spider, deserves praise. Michael Papa John, who was previously involved in Uncle Ben's murder in Raimi's trilogy, wanted to play the role again, but he ended up as a driver of Rajat Radha. The film was a success with both audiences and critics. The immediate development of a sequel began. The post-credits scene hinted at a much larger threat to Peter Parker than any ordinary Spider-Man foe. Audiences held their breath in anticipation of what would come next. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. A pattern seems to be emerging that if you place too many bets on one film and try to fill it with an abundance of characters and hints at the future without proper groundwork, the movie may cease to work. A similar situation occurred with Spider-Man 3, but it wasn't as critical. Let's count how many characters, most of them play a significant role in the story by the way, the creators introduced. Max Dillon, also known as Electro, portrayed by Jamie Foxx, a strange portrayal of an insecure man you somehow don't believe. Harry Osborn, played by Dane DeHaan, he goes through the entire transformation into a villain in one film. Recall that it took 3 films to fully develop Franco's character. Norman Osborn, who appears and meets his demise, but everyone knows that in Spider-Man comics such scenes are not permanent unless you are Uncle Ben. Paul Giamatti plays Alexei Sadsevich, the Rhino, and appears in 2 scenes without engaging in a battle with Spidey. Alistair Smythe also appears in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but more like a cameo. Later, he was supposed to gain abilities and try to kill Spidey. Alongside Harry Osborn, there is Felicia Hardy, who was supposed to become the Black Cat in the future. At Ravencroft, Dr. Ashley Kafka works, although here, for some reason, the character is a man, despite being a woman in the original. They also decided against introducing Mary Jane, with Shailene Woodley already cast in the role. Fortunately, she didn't end up in the film. Her presence would have diminished the drama of Gwen's loss. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 can be criticized for many things: undeveloped characters, humor that doesn't always fit, a sense of incompleteness despite having the longest runtime among Spider-Man films. However, the scene of Gwen's death and its aftermath is incredibly touching. The emotions of loss accompanying the exit from the theater are the most memorable aspect of the film. In reality, the relationship between the lovers is genuinely delightful, a significant factor in the duology, yet there are issues here as well. Nevertheless, looking at Marvel's mega successful cinematic universe, Sony decides to expand its own cinematic universe. They have announced at least 2 sequels, a film about the Sinister Six, solo movies for Venom, Black Cat, and even Silver Sable. A movie about Spider-Man 2099 has been confirmed. The conclusion of the second part shows Vulture's wings and Dr. Octopus tentacles. However, Webb and Garfield are not keen on staying for 2 more films, maximum for a trilogy. Sony starts negotiating with Disney to introduce Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War. However, Disney wasn't interested in merging West cinematic universes. Hence, the reboot becomes a convenient way out for everyone. Thus begins the era of Tom Holland. Spider-Man Homecoming. However, beyond that, the first appearance of the new version of the hero occurred in Captain America Civil War and turned out to be very successful. Marvel chose not to rehash the origin story for the umpteenth time. They set aside the spider bite and Uncle Ben's tail. The introduction of the new Parker is abrupt, all for the sake of a massive action scene at the airport. However, the audience manages to grasp his character and potential development path. The new Spidey is a teenager, cracking jokes left and right. Everything happening to him is a game. The creators added an interesting detail to the new look: the movable eyes on the spider mask. The static heads of Maguire and Garfield didn't convey the character's feelings. Now you can discern emotions on his face without showing it. Odd in terms of realism, but apt from an emotional engagement perspective. Also, Aunt May made her debut with Marisa Tomei. With each adaptation, she seems to get younger. In the post-credits scene, Peter receives a gift from Tony Stark, a spider signal, a nod to the original comic incarnations of Spider-Man, hinting at an imminent continuation. The full-fledged solo film was released 2 years later. Tom Holland delighted everyone in Civil War, and fans eagerly anticipated his new appearance. John Watts was brought in to direct the solo film, known for his ability to make movies about teenagers. The focus of the new movie was on Peter's school life. Even the subtitle Homecoming implies the Spider's return to Marvel. That is, if you don't consider all the other meanings of this subtitle. However, it's crucial to understand a key point. The rights to Spider-Man still belong to Sony. They, in a way, leased the character to Disney, integrating him into their cinematic universe. Numbered 1999-99. Moreover, a significant percentage goes to Sony, despite Disney characters in the plot and their production capabilities. It's not surprising that for a while the studios consider breaking their collaboration. In that case, the Spidey crossover would never have happened. But it didn't come to that, so I won't dwell on the conflict further. The main villain was played by Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes, also known as the Vulture. Notably, the filmmaker's tendency to humanize villains remained intact. In Raimi's films, most of the bad guys redeemed themselves. In Mark Webb's version, everything was blamed on Oscorp. The situation is similar here. Toomes not only acknowledges his mistakes, but also discovers Spider-Man's identity, and chooses not to reveal it to Scorpion. However, one villain-hero conflict isn't enough here, so they make Toomes the father of Liz, Peter's love interest. The movie is well written. In family-oriented movies, it's not often you hear below-the-belt jokes. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, despite sharing general concepts, strives to offer different settings for superhero stories. Spider-Man is in charge of the teenage vibe. Generally, the constant rejuvenation of the character can be explained by the aging fan base. Original Spider-Man enthusiasts have grown up and relate well to the stories of a 25, 30-year-old young man, but the essence of Spider-Man has huge potential for teenage audience. Thus, Spidey often returns to the beginning of his adventures, gathering a new audience and drawing their attention to comics that have been around for decades. In addition to the Vulture, the film features not one but 2 shockers. Well, one is canonical, Herman Schultz. and the other is Jackson Bryce. The Tinkerer is also working with the Vulture. Among Peter's circle, Michelle Jones, played by Zendaya, stands out. As revealed at the end of the film, she prefers to be called MJ. The most intriguing character is Ned Leeds. It turned out that it was the name of one of the criminals hiding behind the Hobgoblin mask, but not exactly. In general, it's a long story. It's curious to see if this leads anywhere. There is also a new Flash Thompson and a new Betty Brant. One of the main guest stars is Tony Stark, who serves as Spider-Man's mentor. Not particularly sensitive or diligent in his role, but that's Tony Stark we all know. The box office reached almost $1 billion. Tom Holland's Spider-Man gets an invitation to the Avengers, and his character plays a significant role in Infinity War. After a colorful demise and a touching comeback, Spidey is gearing up for the sequel, but for now, we have another animated series. Since Marvel has its popular Spider-Man, who will naturally develop its universe on screens for many years, it's not all that simple. Marvel Studios has another company called Marvel Television, not under Kevin Feige's command. They are responsible for series like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and other not-so-successful works. All of them share a common feature: the Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't take them too seriously. If the first 2 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were closely tied to MCU events, they later shifted to different universes. The new animated series falls under the Marvel Television umbrella, so it will last precisely 3 seasons and close with the moment of being absorbed by a more successful studio. Initially, the series most resembles the spectacular Spider-Man of 2008. We are told familiar stories with a methodical repetition of all the main plot lines. But it has a very important plus. Spider-Man 2017 brings to the screen for the first time many story arcs and characters that emerged from the 0 to 2010 period. Anya Corazon makes her debut as Spider-Girl, and Miles Morales also becomes a frequent guest. Peter attends Horizon High, a school for geniuses led by Max Model, a crucial character from the comic pages. For the first time on screen, the story of Spider Island is told, where all Manhattan residents gain superpowers. And of course, one of the most controversial and talked about arcs of the 2010s is featured, The Superior Spider-Man, where Dr. Octopus takes over Peter Parker's body. The 3rd season is entirely dedicated to the struggle with Venom, consisting of 6 40-minute episodes and bearing the subtitle Maximum Venom. It's noteworthy that series from the Ultimate Universe suddenly crossed over into the new Spider-Man series. Quite weird. Various characters begin to pay each other visits. No one remembers the Ultimate version anymore. The animated series is pleasantly crafted, but as I mentioned, the show lasted for 3 seasons and was closed along with the dissolution of Marvel Television. Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Sony had set a goal for themselves quite a while back: create a lively, youth-oriented animated film, something atypical that would give the movie a slightly different feel. In short, they wanted to surprise everyone. They brought in the young visionary Alberto Mielgo as the visual stylist, known for his work on the series Love, Death and Robots. The most intriguing aspect is that the entire anthology series was hand-drawn. He had been developing the visual design for Into the Spider-Verse for several years, and achieved truly outstanding results. However, Mielgo's desires and the studio's goals differed significantly. The artist wanted to explore a decidedly atypical and harsh Spider-Man story, bordering on his other works. Sony, on the other hand, aimed for family-friendly entertainment. Mielgo was dismissed, and his work was handed over to Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the creators of the hit Lego Movie. They took on the role of producers, while different individuals assumed the director's chair. The animated film hit the screens, astonishing the audience. The story revolves around Miles Morales, a young guy who gets bitten by a radioactive spider. Meanwhile, the original Spider-Man is killed. However, alternative versions of him from different dimensions arrive. There is Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker from the 4th millennium, controlling a robot inhabited by a spider, Gwen Stacy, who lost Peter in her universe and gained superpowers. And of course, there is Peter Porker, Spider-Ham. By the way, there was even a separate short film about him. Together, they must confront the Kingpin, who wants to retrieve his deceased wife and child from a parallel reality. The animated film once again explores the theme of the multiverse, which has seemingly always been present in Marvel projects, but rarely brought to the forefront. However, this time, the project about multiple realities becomes a hit, showcasing the audience's interest in such content and pure fan service. The movie is filled with references to various Marvel projects. Whether it's Brian Bendis, the creator of Miles Morales, listed printed in the phone book or the display board, featuring different universes with numbers according to official numbering. By the way, about that numbering. If we believe these numbers, the events take place in the main Marvel universes, the main 616 as well as 1610, also known as the Ultimate Universe, the homeland of Morales. However, these universes are not the original ones, and there are many discrepancies in their stories. As for the animated film itself, it received an Oscar. Following this success, a sequel was in development. The post-credits scene introduces Spider-Man from the year 2099 and 67. The film is so stylistically refined, with each scene being a kind of small masterpiece. The introduction of the prowler and the accompanying sounds, a mix of a siren and an animal's cry, is particularly noteworthy. Just a reminder, Aaron Davis, Miles Morales' uncle, is behind the prowler's mask, and he had appeared in Homecoming before. Well, right now we are once again returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Spider-Man Far From Home, the second standalone Spider-Man movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, served as the finale to the third phase, acting as a sort of epilogue to the Infinity War. It delves into how people cope with the aftermath, exploring quirky situations that arise, like classmates who suddenly age. Peter grapples with the death of Iron Man and seeks a new mentor. Enter Quentin Beck, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, aka Mysterio, a perfect fit for the role. Beck arrives from a parallel universe to protect the Earth from malevolent elementals, Hydro Man, Cyclone and Molten Man. Yet we, the audience, immediately sense he is fabricating a story. It can't be the 616 universe, it's 1999-99, and the 833 he claims to be from is the home of the British Spider-Man, William Braddock. Nice try, Quentin. Naturally, his motives are selfish. He aims to seize the artificial intelligence transmitted to Peter by Stark, and he succeeds effortlessly. Manipulating Parker, who is always searching for a new role model, proves to be a walk in the park for him. The film continues the trend of youthful comedies, shifting the focus to Eurotrip. MJ learns about Peter's identity, and the dynamics between them radiate with high school charm and naivety. It's amusing that the idea of a multiverse is treated as utter nonsense here, but the most significant event happens in the finale, a plot twist that completely altered the character's status quo. Mysterio reveals the identity of Spider-Man to the entire world. Now everyone knows what Peter does in his free time when he is not in school. Interestingly, we learn all of this from J. Jonah Jameson, portrayed by J.K. Simmons. The second post-credits scene hints at an event called Secret Invasion, connected to the Skrull race, shapeshifters capable of changing their appearance. Among the delightful references are the license plate numbers, subtly pointing to specific comic issues that inspired the film. For instance, in London, you can spot the plate TSM 143, referencing Amazing Spider-Man 143, where Cyclone first appeared, and Peter shared his first kiss with Mary Jane. The car of Talos, who is disguised as Nick Fury, with the plate Ashendem 62011, alludes to the 6th issue of the comic Hawkeye and Mockingbird, released in 2011, featuring the Skrull Nick Fury. The film delivers exactly what you expect, a light teenage adventure with plenty of humor, beautiful locations, and decent action scenes. As a bonus, the Blu-ray includes a short film called Peter's To-Do List, featuring cutscenes from the final version. The box office success delights the creators, who have promptly started developing the sequel. Spider-Man No Way Home picks up where its predecessor Far From Home left off, with the Peter Parker grappling with the aftermath of his secret identity being revealed. The film masterfully weaves a complex narrative involving the multiverse, introducing beloved characters from previous Spider-Man iterations. The storytelling is tight, with the perfect balance of humor, heart, and high-stakes drama. Director John Watts skillfully navigates the intricate web of the multiverse, creating a story that keeps you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. One of the film's biggest strength is its ability to tap into the nostalgia of longtime Spider-Man fans. The return of familiar faces from earlier Spider-Man films is executed with precision and genuine respect for the characters. The nostalgia factor is not just a gimmick, it's an integral part of the story that adds emotional depth and resonance to the overall narrative. Tom Holland continues to shine as Peter Parker in Spider-Man. His performance is nuanced, capturing the vulnerability and determination of the character. As Peter faces unprecedented challenges, Holland's portrayal carries the weight of the character's journey with authenticity. The chemistry between Holland and his co-stars is palpable, creating memorable moments that resonated with audiences. Spider-Man No Way Home delivers some of the most exhilarating and visually stunning action sequences in the entire Spider-Man franchise. The choreography of the fight scenes is top-notch, and the integration of CGI is seamless. The film's visual effects team deserves applause for their work in bringing the multiverse and its various dimensions to life. from swinging through the city to intense showdowns. The action is a true spectacle that will leave you in awe. In conclusion, Spider-Man No Way Home is a triumphant addition to the Spider-Man filmography. It successfully blends nostalgia, heart, and action, creating a cinematic experience that will leave fans cheering. Whether you're a long-time Spider-Man enthusiast or a casual moviegoer, this film has something for everyone. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse swings into theaters with a mesmerizing blend of animation, storytelling, and nostalgia. The highly anticipated sequel to the groundbreaking Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse lives up to the hype, delivering a visually stunning and emotionally resonant experience that captivates both new and seasoned Spider-Man fans. The film picks up where its predecessor left off, with Miles Morales continuing his journey as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. However, a mysterious new threat emerges, leading Miles to once again traverse the multiverse, encountering alternate versions of Spider-Man from different dimensions. One of the film's standout elements is its animation style. The vibrant, comic book-inspired visuals are a feast for the eyes, creating a dynamic and immersive world that feels like a living, breathing comic book. The use of innovative animation techniques, including varied frame rates and dynamic panel layouts, adds a unique and visually stimulating layer to the storytelling. The narrative is a roller coaster of emotions, seamlessly blending humor, heart, and high-stakes action. Miles Morales continues to evolve as a character, grappling with the responsibilities of being a superhero while navigating the challenges of adolescence. The introduction of new Spider-Man, including Gwen Stacy, Miguel O'Hara, Peter Parker, and other surprises, adds depth to the narrative and expands the multiverse in exciting ways. The film also pays homage to the rich history of Spider-Man comics and pop culture, incorporating nods to the iconic storylines and fan-favorite characters. Easter eggs and references are scattered throughout, rewarding longtime fans while remaining accessible to the newcomers. If there's any criticism, it might be that the plot occasionally feels a bit convoluted due to the multiverse concept, but the film's pacing and engaging storytelling ultimately smooth out any narrative wrinkles. In conclusion, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse is a triumph of animation and storytelling. It successfully builds upon the foundation laid by its predecessor, offering a visually stunning, emotionally resonant, and thoroughly enjoyable cinematic experience. Spider-Man fans, both casual and hardcore, are in for a treat as they witness the Spider-Verse expand and evolve in this spectacular sequel. By the way, there are other Spider-Man adaptations on screens, which are not worth devoting a separate part of the video to them, but they need to be mentioned. Spidey and His Amazing Friends of 2021, the episode of What If series, and hundreds of fan films, small character appearance and cult TV series, shows, and much more. So, in the end, I want to thank all of you guys for watching this really big video. I genuinely worked hard on that one. So, my dear viewers, click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, and write what you think about it in the comments below. We'll see you soon.